The day she stopped searching for power and became it. She didn't notice it at first, not as a thought, not as a sudden awakening. It came in the way she stopped outsourcing her strength, in the way her body no longer needed to take responsibility for her with symptoms to keep the balance, in the absence of urgency. She wasn't depending on her gray hair to carry the weight of her seasons, looking inward to find herself, using up all the life of color they once had. She wasn't depending on her protection mechanisms to avoid the lack and empty feelings. She wasn't relying on state support, family structure, or the silence contract with her partner to keep her above water. Something inside her had shifted. She had stopped leaning on the invisible scaffolding of a life built on hope, where she was waiting for the magical wonder to save her. And that moment was the beginning of a remembering she didn't yet have words for. Until now, she had called it creative force, this ability to function, to keep it all going, to survive in silence. But survival is not creative power, and dependency is not softness. It's exhaustion disguised as control. She had given her authority away to systems, to rhythms, to stories that were never hers. She had realized how many of her actions were a response to not knowing what source power really was. Not because she was weak, but because no one had shown her how it feels to stand in her own energetic ground. She had become good at managing her energy, but she had never anchored it, because this field was yet invisible to her, not knowing it was her all along. Honest thoughts. I thought I knew. I thought I understood the law of attraction because I had already discovered so much. I had already healed, already manifested, already shed old beliefs. I thought I was past the part where I needed to learn how to hold myself. But I wasn't. Because deep down, I was still waiting to be carried by energy, by signs, by something bigger than me. I said I trusted, but I was still measuring, still calculating what would come back to me, still holding my breath, hoping I'd done enough. I thought I was free, but I was still in negotiation, still depending on what moved outside of me to feel safe inside. I didn't realize how many of my systems were running on old contracts. My nervous system, conditioned to alert. My body, taking on more than it should. My energy, outsourced to what might never arrive. I didn't see it clearly because I was still performing sovereignty instead of living it. And now I stop performing. I stop waiting. I stop building altars to the miracle that was never supposed to save me. I come back, not to faith, to ground. She had relied on so many invisible systems, her body, her cycle, her drive, her control, that she didn't notice that she never fully stood in herself. She had survived, she had delivered, she had made things happen, but creation, she had never known what it really felt like to be the space things rise from, not the hand that pushes them into bloom. She isn't here to push anymore. She is here to be the field. Not dependent, not efforting, not urgent. She becomes the quiet rhythm beneath what grows. She is the generative power, not the proof of it. What if a real power was never in what she could manifest, but in what she could hold? What if those automatic systems, her breath, her balance, her nervous logic, had only taken over because she hadn't yet remembered her place? Not as the wish, not as the result, but as the space. She used to think she was the seed, that life would happen to her, if the sun found her, if the rain reached her, if the timing was right. But now she knows she is the soil, the place where seeds rest without pressure, the place that trusts the seasons and doesn't fear the stillness between them. She doesn't need to chase light, the sun will rise. She doesn't need to beg for growth, the seed already knows. Her role isn't to force, it's to hold, to be so deeply present that life feels safe to root in her. That is creation, that is frequency. She no longer whispers affirmations to override her fear. She breathes into her belly and lets it speak. She listens, not to control the outcome, but to stay close to herself. She withdraws her energy from everything she once thought she needed to be enough. From the body that had to carry it all, from the instincts that ran the show, from the relationships that mirrored dependence, from the stories that said she can't hold herself. She reclaims her ground, and she stops apologizing for being the space instead of the spectacle. She becomes a field of safety, a rhythm without noise, a soil that doesn't owe fruit to anyone. She's not here to prove worth. She's here to remember truth. She's not the seed that waits. She is the soil that holds. She's not the echo of someone else's light. She's the condition for it to land. She's not in need of permission. She is the frequency that makes life say yes. No longer asking, no longer outsourcing, no longer leaking power into silence and submission. She is the field, the space, the slow rhythm beneath becoming. And she holds herself because she always could. And now she knows.